Why is it so easy to give everything to others, yet so difficult to give even a fraction of that love to ourselves? We seek approval, applause, recognition. We chase after relationships, careers, attention. And when we don't get them, we feel like we are not enough. But what if I told you there is another way? A way that doesn't rely on outside validation. A way that turns your gaze inward instead of outward. A way to truly love yourself, not through shallow affirmations, but through deep, unshakable wisdom. Epictetus was born a slave, yet his mind was freer than most kings. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but reminded himself daily that glory is just dust in the wind. Seneca had more wealth than many of his peers, yet preached detachment as the path to inner peace. These men knew something we have forgotten in today's world. Self-worth is not something you earn, it's something you discover within yourself. This is not just another motivational speech. I won't tell you to stare in the mirror and repeat hollow phrases. This is about reclaiming your power through one of the most profound philosophies ever created, Stoicism. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 Stoic principles that can completely transform the way you relate to yourself. These are not feel-good ideas. They're not easy. In fact, some may feel uncomfortable, but they are real and they work if you apply them. You'll learn how to build self-respect from the inside out. You'll learn to stop depending on others for your sense of identity. You'll learn how to feel complete, even when the world misunderstands or rejects you. And most importantly, you'll learn how to stand firm in your own worth, regardless of your circumstances. Here on Diary Stoic, we don't just talk about ancient ideas, we bring them to life. We use the timeless wisdom of thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca to deal with modern problems: anxiety, insecurity, self-doubt. Because Stoicism isn't about sounding smart, it's about living better. It's not about controlling the world, it's about mastering yourself. And make sure you stay until the very end. Because the final lesson I'll share with you is the most powerful of them all. It's the idea that changed my life, and it might just change yours too. But first, I want you to do something simple. Leave this phrase in the comments. I am enough, even in silence. Write it down, not for me, for you, as a small vow, as a quiet revolution, as a reminder that you don't need to shout your worth to the world. You already know it, and that's all that matters. Lesson 10. You do not need permission to be at peace with who you are. The world trains you from a very young age to seek approval. From your first steps, people clap. When you speak your first words, they cheer. Grades, trophies, likes, followers, all systems of external validation that slowly shape the way you see yourself. And then, somewhere along the way, you begin to believe the lie that you need permission to feel worthy. But the Stoics, centuries ago, stood firm in their rejection of this illusion. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That sentence is a confrontation. It asks, why do we hand over the key to our self-worth to strangers? Why do we build our peace on the unstable ground of other people's approval? This 10th lesson begins with a radical realization. You do not need permission to be at peace with who you are, not from your parents, not from your friends, not from society, and certainly not from the silent voices of judgment you carry in your mind. the ones built by years of conditioning and comparison. Epictetus, who lived his early life enslaved, endured humiliation, powerlessness, and pain, yet emerged with a philosophy that placed the inner life above all. He taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The world may enslave your body, your reputation, even your opportunities, but no one can chain your soul without your consent. And the first step toward mastering yourself is reclaiming the right to love and accept who you are, without apology. Imagine this, a person calm in solitude, walking through a crowded city. He hears the noise, the opinions, the expectations, the comparisons, but they pass through him like wind through open hands. He does not react to praise or insult. He does not shrink or swell because of someone else's words. He walks grounded in something deeper. This is the Stoic ideal, to be undisturbed by the external and anchored within. That sounds nearly impossible today, doesn't it? In a world where self-worth seems to be measured in achievements, relationships, wealth, and social currency, how can someone love themselves without first earning it? The Stoics would answer, you are already complete. Your nature, your capacity for reason, your moral agency, these make you whole. You don't have to be more beautiful, more successful, more intelligent, more charismatic. You just have to remember who you are beneath all the noise. And once you remember, you must guard that peace as a sacred duty. Seneca once warned that people become slaves to others' judgments, not because others are powerful, but because they have never learned to govern themselves. He wrote, "Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them." This includes people's approval. It includes the permission we wait for to feel good about ourselves. We don't need it. We just got used to craving it. Self-worth, for the Stoic, is not something you accumulate. It's something you uncover, like scraping away the dirt from a buried statue. The beauty is already there. It just needs to be revealed. But here's the hard truth. That process hurts. It requires silence. It requires solitude. It demands that you face the parts of yourself you've been hiding, the parts you tried to fix through other people's love. And it demands that you finally say to yourself, I am enough, even if no one ever says it out loud. Let's pause here. Imagine your life if you believed that. Imagine the emotional freedom. Imagine the mental stillness. Imagine the strength that would radiate from someone who no longer needs permission to feel whole. That's what the Stoics were pointing to. Not ego, not arrogance, but freedom, the kind that comes from no longer being owned by the opinions of others. Think about how much of your suffering has come from trying to be accepted. Think of the compromises, the pretending, the people you've allowed to define your worth. Now ask yourself, have they ever really understood you? Have they ever truly seen who you are beneath the surface? If not, why give them the power to define your value? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know who you are. You don't need a crowd to tell you what you already know deep down, and you certainly don't need to delay your peace until the world finally gets you. Most never will, and that's okay. The Stoic path invites you to make peace with this truth. You will never control how others see you, but you can always choose how you see yourself. And if that vision is clear, firm, and rooted in virtue, then no amount of misunderstanding can shake it. Loving yourself more than anyone else does not mean becoming selfish. In Stoic terms, it means becoming self-responsible. It means owning your inner life, mastering your emotional responses, building your identity on what cannot be taken from you, your character, your choices, your perspective. And so, this 10th and final lesson is not a gentle one. It's a challenge, a confrontation with everything inside you that still waits for someone else to make you feel whole. From today forward, stop waiting. Stop waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough. Stop waiting for apologies to heal. Stop waiting for success to feel proud. Stop waiting for the past to rewrite itself. Stop waiting for love to feel lovable. You already are. And the only person who needs to believe that is you. So say it quietly, not as a boast, but as a quiet truth. I am enough, even in silence. Not because the world says so, not because your accomplishments prove it, but because your soul, your true nature, was born with value. That is the foundation of Stoic self-worth. That is what Epictetus died believing, what Marcus Aurelius wrote about in the dead of night, what Seneca passed on to his friends and students. And that is what you must carry forward, as a discipline, as a commitment, as a kind of peace that no one else can take away from you. This is lesson 10, the deepest one, the root from which all others grow. Lesson 9, you are not your reputation, you are your character. One of the most exhausting things a human being can do is try to control what others think of them. We spend hours choosing the right words, adjusting our appearance, managing how we're perceived. We try to be agreeable, admired, respected. We say yes when we want to say no. We stay silent when something inside us screams to speak. And why? Because we confuse reputation with identity. But the Stoics drew a hard line between those two. They believed your reputation is what people think of you, and your character is who you are when no one is watching. One is fleeting, unstable, and ultimately out of your control. The other is solid, internal, and completely yours to shape. Epictetus was clear about this. He taught that we should not concern ourselves with things beyond our control. And what could be more beyond our control than the thoughts of another person? He said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That line strikes like lightning. It forces us to ask, what would I do? How would I live? Who would I be if I no longer cared about being liked? Because here's the truth. When you live to protect your reputation, you become a prisoner of other people's expectations. Every compliment becomes a chain. Every criticism becomes a threat. Your self-image rises and falls with the moods of strangers. But when you live from character, you are anchored. Praise doesn't inflate you. Rejection doesn't deflate you. You stand where you are, firmly, without apology. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his personal writings, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. But sanity means tying it to your own actions. This is the key. Your value is not in what people say about you. It's in how you act, how you choose, how you carry yourself, especially when no one is watching. Think of how many times you've betrayed yourself trying to protect your image. The moments you agreed with things you didn't believe, the people you kept in your life to avoid conflict, the silence you maintained just to keep the peace. And think of how it felt. That hollow ache, that quiet shame. That is what happens when you sacrifice character for reputation. The Stoic path reverses that pattern. It asks you to live from the inside out, not the outside in. To begin every day by asking not, how will I be seen, but who will I be today? Because the man who lives by reputation may be praised, but he is never at peace. Only the man who lives by character can look in the mirror without fear. Seneca, who was surrounded by power and politics, understood this danger better than most. He once said, "A good character, when established, is not easily overthrown. Reputation can be destroyed in a moment, a rumor, a scandal, a lie. But character is forged in choices, tested in silence, proven in crisis. It is the only thing that belongs entirely to you." This lesson is not easy to live, especially today, when everyone has a platform, when every opinion is public, when reputation is currency. But the Stoics were not interested in what was easy. They were interested in what was true and in what leads to freedom. And the truth is this: if you want peace, you must stop performing. You must stop shaping your life to win approval. You must stop editing your personality to fit the room. You must stop measuring your worth in other people's eyes, because the moment you do, you hand them the power to define you, and no wise person ever does that. Instead, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be when no one is watching? What kind of man or woman do I want to become, regardless of who notices? And then live that, quietly, consistently, without drama, without announcement, without apology. That is the Stoic way. That is how you build not just self-respect, but inner stillness, the kind of stillness that cannot be shaken by gossip, rejection, or misunderstanding. Because at the end of the day, your reputation may open doors, but only your character lets you sleep at night. So the next time you feel tempted to impress someone, to prove your value, to adjust yourself for the sake of acceptance, pause, breathe. Remember Epictetus' warning: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. Not because you are foolish, but because you are done chasing approval. You are done living for the crowd. You are done sacrificing your peace for a performance. From now on, you choose character over reputation, depth over image, peace over applause. Not because it's easier, but because it's worth it. Lesson 8. Comparison is the enemy of inner peace. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, the comparisons begin. You check your phone, you see someone more successful, someone more attractive, someone younger, richer, happier. Or at least, that's how it looks. Before you've even taken your first conscious breath of the day, a quiet voice whispers, "You are not enough." This voice is not yours. It was built, piece by piece, by a culture that thrives on discontent. But you've heard it so often, you believe it. You begin to measure your life not by your values, but by someone else's achievements. And in doing so, you trade something priceless, your inner peace, for something worthless, the illusion of falling behind. The Stoics saw comparison as one of the great diseases of the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors. Be indifferent to what makes no difference." What he meant is simple. The life of another person has nothing to do with the integrity of your own. Their success is not your failure. Their path is not your map. And yet, comparison is seductive. It promises clarity. If you just look at others, maybe you'll figure out how to be better, how to get ahead, how to win, but the cost is heavy. With every comparison, you chip away at your self-worth. You begin to feel like a copy, a shadow, a failure, and worst of all, You stop hearing your own voice, the one that once knew what really mattered to you. Epictetus warned his students, what upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things. When you see someone thriving, it's not their success that wounds you, it's the meaning you attach to it. You tell yourself you're falling behind, that you're missing something, that you're less than. But what if you didn't believe those thoughts? What if you could observe someone else's joy without questioning your own? This is not just possible, it is necessary, because comparison, unchecked, will rot the roots of your self-love. It will poison your ambition. It will distort your values. You'll begin chasing what impresses others instead of what fulfills you. And that is the fastest way to a life that looks good on the outside and feels empty on the inside. Seneca, writing to a friend, once said, "No man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity." In other words, we suffer not just because of what we lack, but because of what we believe others have. And often, we don't even want those things. We just want the feeling of being seen as successful. But the Stoics remind us, virtue is the only true wealth, not cars, not titles, not followers. Integrity, wisdom, courage, temperance. These are the things that no one can take from you, that do not rust, that do not depend on trends or applause. And the moment you measure your life by these, comparison dissolves. You stop asking, why don't I have what they have? And begin asking, am I living in alignment with what I value? And that question, unlike comparison, leads somewhere real. So how do you break free from comparison? First, you must become aware of it. Notice the moments it creeps in. Scrolling social media, walking past someone more confident, hearing a friend's good news. In those moments, don't suppress the feeling. Observe it, question it, ask, is this envy or is this a reminder of something I've been neglecting in myself? Sometimes comparison is a teacher. Sometimes it's a trap. Your job is to know the difference. Second, define your own metrics for success. Not what your parents expected, not what society celebrates, yours. What matters to you when everything is quiet, when no one is watching, when you're alone at the end of the day? What makes you proud? Build your life around that. Measure progress by that. Third, practice sympathia, the Stoic concept of shared humanity. Marcus Aurelius believed we are all part of the same whole, that another's joy does not diminish your own, that the success of another is not a threat, but a reflection of what is possible for all of us. When you see someone thriving, let it remind you of what you too are capable of, not what you're lacking. And finally, return to gratitude, not as a vague feel-good practice, but as a discipline. Every day, remind yourself of what you have, and more importantly, of what you've endured. The person you are becoming was not made in ease. It was forged in struggle, in failure, in choosing growth when comfort was an option. Do not trade that depth for superficial comparisons. So, the next time you feel small beside someone else's highlight reel, remember this: you were not born to be them. You were born to be you, fully, courageously, without shame. Your path is yours. Your timing is yours. Your lessons, your scars, your victories, all of it yours. Honor that. Trust that. Live that. This is Lesson 8, a reminder that comparison is the enemy of inner peace, and peace is too valuable to waste on illusions. Lesson 7. Mastering your emotions is not suppression. It's strength. There is a common misconception about Stoicism, that it teaches you to feel nothing, that a Stoic is cold, detached, emotionless. But this is a distortion, not a truth. The Stoics never taught that you should become a stone. What they taught was far more powerful, that you should master your emotions, not be mastered by them. To master something is not to destroy it. It is to understand it, to direct it, to use it with intention. And this is the seventh lesson. True strength lies in emotional mastery, not in suppression. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Emotions do not arise from events. They arise from the meaning we attach to those events. Two people can face the same challenge, the same insult, the same loss, the same setback, and one will break while the other remains calm. Why? Because their inner narratives are different. Their perception, not the event itself, creates the feeling. This insight changes everything. It means you are not at the mercy of what happens to you. You are not helpless against your emotions. You can observe them, question them, reframe them. You can train your mind to respond with clarity instead of reaction. That is what the Stoics called prohairesis, your ability to choose how you interpret and act upon whatever comes your way. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in moments of intense pressure and grief, reminded himself again and again, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not denial, this is command. This is the strength of a man who feels everything and is still free. Emotions are not enemies. Anger, sadness, fear, they carry information, but that information must be examined, not obeyed blindly. The Stoic trains himself to pause, to say, "I feel anger, but is it just?" To say, "I feel fear, but is it real?" To say, "I feel desire, but is it wise?" This pause is where freedom begins. It is the difference between reacting like a slave and choosing like a sovereign. Seneca taught that we are born into chaos, but we can cultivate inner order. He wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And adversity is not just external, it lives in our emotions. Every storm of feeling is an opportunity to train, not to suppress, but to strengthen. Suppression leads to resentment, repression, and eventual explosion. Mastery leads to insight, calm, and resilience. And the way to mastery is practice. Daily, repeatedly, relentlessly. You do not wait for peace to arrive. You build it, moment by moment, choice by choice. This lesson is especially important today. We live in an age that tells us to just feel, to express everything, to give emotions the steering wheel. But the Stoics ask, what happens when your feelings lead you into ruin, into regret, into actions you cannot undo? Should a moment of rage be allowed to destroy a life? Should a fleeting desire override your values? Should sadness mean you abandon your responsibilities? The answer is no. Not if you want to live with strength, not if you want to respect yourself, not if you want peace. To master your emotions does not mean to feel nothing. It means to feel fully and still choose wisely. It means to carry pain without becoming bitter, to experience joy without becoming reckless, to face fear without becoming paralyzed. This is not coldness, it is courage. And courage, the Stoics remind us, is not the absence of fear. It is the discipline to act rightly even while fear is present. Just as temperance is not the absence of desire, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Imagine a person who feels everything, pain, joy, grief, temptation, and still responds with grace, still moves with clarity, still chooses what is right over what is easy. That person is not emotionally dead. That person is fully alive and fully free. So the next time you feel a wave of emotion rising inside you, remember this: you are not the wave. You are the one who sees it. You can let it pass. You can choose not to act on it. You can feel deeply and still stay rooted. This is the Stoic superpower, emotional self-governance. And in a world addicted to reaction, it is the rarest form of power. So take this lesson seriously. Practice the pause. Question the impulse. Do not be afraid to feel, but never let your feelings decide your values. This is lesson 7. The reminder that mastering your emotions is not suppression. It is strength, the kind of strength the world cannot give you and cannot take away. Lesson 6. No one owes you anything, and that's your freedom. It's a hard truth to swallow, a bitter one, but it might be the most liberating lesson you will ever learn. No one owes you anything, not love, not kindness, not apologies, not understanding, not even fairness. At first glance, this sounds harsh, almost cruel. You might think, how can that be freedom? But here's the paradox the Stoics understood. Expectation is the root of most suffering. And when you release those expectations, you begin to experience real peace. Epictetus said, "Don't expect things to happen the way you want them to. Just wish that they happen as they do happen, and you'll be okay." That sounds simple, but in practice, it cuts deep. Because we've built our lives on silent expectations, that our friends should treat us with loyalty, that our partner should understand us, that our efforts should be rewarded, that life should make sense. But life does not always follow our scripts. People are unpredictable. Circumstances are indifferent. Rewards don't always come. Recognition doesn't always arrive. And when you believe these things should happen, you suffer twice. First from the event itself, and then from your resistance to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He lived through wars, betrayal, the death of children, and the constant weight of being emperor. Yet he returned again and again to this core Stoic idea. Let go of what you cannot control, and the expectations you place on others, that they must behave how you want, treat you how you hope, love you how you need, are completely outside your control. This does not mean you accept abuse. This does not mean you stay silent when wronged. But it does mean that you stop tying your peace to other people's behavior. You stop thinking the world must bend to your sense of what is fair. Because the truth is, the world is not fair. It is real, and reality is not personal. The Stoic knows this. The Stoic practices a form of emotional independence that is rare today. He gives freely without strings. He acts justly, not because it will be returned, but because it is right. He detaches from the need to be understood, applauded, or even appreciated. Seneca, in a letter to Lucilius, wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And part of that learning is this: to remove the silent contracts you have written in your mind. The ones that say, because I was kind, they should be kind back. Or, because I showed up, I deserve loyalty. These contracts were never signed by anyone but you. The Stoic way is different. It is the path of internal control. You hold yourself to a standard, regardless of whether others meet it. You choose your response, regardless of how others act. You act with character, not to manipulate outcomes, but because character is its own reward. This lesson becomes even more vital in relationships. So many break because we demand from others what they are not capable or willing to give. We try to extract healing from partners, validation from friends, identity from family. But the Stoic turns inward. He learns to self-soothe, to self-validate, to self-govern. You may not be able to change what others do, but you can always change how tightly you hold your expectations. You can move from "they should" to "they did." Now what will I do? That shift changes everything, and something else happens when you release others from your expectations. You begin to love more purely. You give because you choose to give, not because you expect something in return. You forgive not because it will bring you applause, but because it sets you free. You become responsible for your own emotions, your own boundaries, your own peace. This does not mean isolation. It does not mean cold detachment. It means choosing connection from a place of wholeness, not neediness. It means recognizing that no one completes you, because you are not broken. You are not missing pieces. You are not half of anything. So let this lesson echo inside you. No one owes you anything, and that is your freedom. Freedom to give without keeping score. Freedom to walk away without resentment. Freedom to live without bitterness. Freedom to let go without losing yourself. This is not a theory. It is a practice, daily, in the little things, when a friend forgets to call, when a partner doesn't respond the way you hoped, when life feels unfair. Pause, breathe, ask, did I expect something that was never promised? And if the answer is yes, release it, because the one thing you truly own, the one thing no one can take from you, is your inner life, and the Stoic guards it with everything. This is Lesson 6, a radical shift in how we relate to others, rooted in the humility and discipline of Stoic philosophy. Lesson 5, your worth is not measured by productivity. In today's world, being busy has become a badge of honor. Hustle is glorified. Rest is viewed as laziness. You are praised for how much you do, not for how well you live. And in that constant motion, you begin to forget something essential, something the Stoics knew well. You are not a machine, and your value is not defined by your output. This is Lesson 5. Your worth is not measured by productivity. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire. His days were filled with decisions that shaped the lives of millions. Yet even he wrote to himself, "If you seek tranquility, do less." And then he clarified, "Or do what's essential," which brings a double satisfaction, doing less and doing it better. These were not the words of a lazy man. These were the words of someone who understood that doing more is not the same as living better. We've built a culture that worships the grind. If you rest, people ask if you're okay. If you take a step back, they wonder if you're falling behind. But falling behind what? Whose race are you running? Who set the pace? The Stoics remind us to be deliberate, to act with intention, to focus not on the volume of what we do, but on the virtue with which we do it. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is the opposite of chasing productivity for its own sake. It's about choosing your actions based on who you want to become, not based on what society expects you to accomplish. The danger of tying your worth to your productivity is subtle but devastating. You begin to confuse busyness with meaning. You fill your calendar to avoid facing your own emptiness. You start to believe that unless you're doing, you're not being. And so, Rest becomes guilt. Stillness becomes fear. Silence becomes unbearable. But Stoicism invites us to slow down, not out of laziness, but out of respect for life, out of awareness that every action should serve a purpose, and every moment is an opportunity for virtue, not just for production. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, warned of wasting time on meaningless activity. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He was not talking about scrolling on phones or binge-watching shows, but the principle remains the same. We waste our lives not because we rest, but because we act without intention, because we chase status over substance, because we equate our value with how much we produce instead of how deeply we live. Think of the most meaningful moments in your life. Were they full of motion, or were they quiet, grounded, slow? A conversation, a moment of courage, a choice made in stillness. These are the moments that shape us, not the endless chasing of tasks and trophies. The Stoic life is not passive, but it is measured. It is focused. It is aligned. The Stoic wakes with purpose, acts with clarity, and rests with no guilt, because he knows that his worth was never based on how much he got done, but on how he lived, how he thought, and how he treated others. So if you are tired, not just in body, but in soul, step back, take a breath, ask yourself, am I doing this because it matters, or because I'm afraid to stop? The fear of stopping is real, because when we stop, we have to face the deeper questions. Who am I without my titles? Who am I when I'm not being useful? Who am I when I am simply still? The Stoic answers, you are a human being, not a cog, not a product, not a machine, a rational soul capable of reflection, virtue, and wisdom. And that is more than enough. So let go of the pressure to prove your worth through constant productivity. Let go of the illusion that rest is weakness. Let go of the belief that you must always be building, earning, growing, winning. Sometimes the most Stoic thing you can do is to sit in silence and know deeply that your value has never been in question. This is Lesson 5, a direct challenge to the modern cult of busyness, and a reminder that your worth does not depend on your output, but on your alignment with your own values. Lesson 4, self-discipline is the highest form of self-respect. There is a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't show off. It doesn't demand applause. It lives in the choices you make when no one is watching. It lives in the way you rise after failure, in the way you choose virtue over comfort, in the way you govern yourself even when no one else would hold you accountable. That strength has a name in Stoic philosophy: self-discipline. This is Lesson 4. Self-discipline is the highest form of self-respect in a world that constantly pushes you to indulge, to react, to escape discomfort. Choosing discipline is a revolutionary act. And yet, the Stoics did not see discipline as punishment. They saw it as freedom, freedom from addiction, from weakness, from chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must build your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible. And no one can keep you from this." What was he really saying? That no one can stop you from doing what is right, from acting with intention, from staying true to your principles. And every time you do, every time you wake early when you feel like sleeping in, every time you hold your tongue when you want to lash out, every time you resist the easy path, you reinforce something sacred. your own integrity. The Stoics believed that virtue, not pleasure, not success, not even happiness, is the highest good. And self-discipline is what protects that virtue. Without discipline, values are just words. Without discipline, wisdom remains theory. Without discipline, you drift, moved by impulse, enslaved by habit. Epictetus, who had every reason to blame his circumstances, instead taught his students to focus on what they could control, their thoughts, their actions, their responses. He said, "No great thing is created suddenly. There must be time. Give your best and hold yourself to your own standard." That is the heart of discipline, not perfection, but effort, sustained, deliberate effort, rooted in self-respect. Because when you respect yourself, you don't sabotage yourself. You don't waste your time. You don't allow temporary cravings to dictate long-term decisions. You live as if your life matters, not someday, but now. And here's the truth that many avoid. Discipline is not about denying yourself. It's about directing yourself. It's about choosing who you want to become, and then acting in alignment with that identity every day, whether you feel like it or not. That's what builds self-trust. That's what creates inner peace. When you know that you can rely on yourself, that you will follow through, even when no one is watching, that confidence is unshakable. It doesn't come from hype. It comes from practice. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And often the things we fear, the discomfort of a workout, the tension of a hard conversation, the boredom of routine, are nothing compared to the damage we do when we avoid them. Every time we run from discipline, we choose short-term ease at the cost of long-term regret. But the Stoic does the opposite. He embraces the moment of effort. He finds dignity in the routine. He lives not to impress, but to align. And in that alignment, he discovers something extraordinary: freedom through structure, peace through effort, power through restraint. So ask yourself, what habits are shaping me? What behaviors am I tolerating that keep me small? What promises have I broken to myself? And most importantly, what would it look like to live each day as a quiet act of self-respect? The answer will not be found in external rewards. It will be found in the quiet mornings, the hard choices, the moments when you choose what's right over what's easy. That is where character is built. That is where peace is born. This is lesson 4, the clear and steady truth that self-discipline is not just a tool, but a declaration. I respect myself enough to govern myself. Lesson 3. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. One of the most liberating ideas in all of Stoic philosophy is also one of the most easily forgotten. You are not your thoughts. Not every idea that enters your mind is true. Not every emotion deserves obedience. Not every fear needs to be followed. And yet, most people live their entire lives enslaved by the noise inside their own heads. This is lesson 3. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. Epictetus taught that our mind is our most powerful possession and our most dangerous if left untrained. He wrote, "What really frightens and dismays us is not external events themselves, but the way in which we think about them." That single sentence reveals the entire battlefield, not outside, but within. Not in the world, but in your interpretations of it. The Stoics were not immune to emotions, nor did they pretend to be. They simply understood that between stimulus and response lies a space, a pause. In that pause, you can observe your thoughts before you act on them. You can question your judgments before you surrender to them. And in that gap, you discover your greatest power, the power to choose. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. His meditations are filled with reminders to himself like, you have the power to strip away many unnecessary troubles. They are entirely within your own judgment. He was not denying reality. He was disciplining his perception. He knew that his peace depended not on the world around him, but on the clarity within him. And clarity comes when you separate yourself from your thoughts. You are not the fear that suddenly appears when you wake up. You are not the doubt that whispers when you try something new. You are not the shame that creeps in from an old mistake. You are not the harsh voice that says you are not enough. Those are thoughts, mental weather. They pass. You remain. The Stoics trained their minds like warriors. They understood that letting a thought go unchecked is like letting a stranger rule your home. Seneca said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." Your imagination is powerful, but so is your ability to rein it in, to examine it, to challenge it, to reshape it with reason. This is not detachment in the cold sense. This is active mental hygiene. Just as you would not eat whatever is placed in front of you without checking if it's poisoned, you must not believe every thought that arises simply because it feels urgent or familiar. The mind is full of old programming, childhood beliefs, societal expectations, inherited fears. The Stoic sees these for what they are. Stories, not truths, and like all stories, they can be rewritten. But first, you must create space. You must learn to pause when a thought tries to hijack your attention. When anger flares, pause. When anxiety rises, pause. When self-criticism begins, pause. In that stillness, ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this mine? Or was it planted by someone else? That pause is everything. It is the seat of awareness. It is the place where you stop being a victim of your thoughts and start becoming a steward of them. The Stoics did not seek to silence the mind. They sought to guide it, to align it with reason, to use it as a tool, not to be used by it. And that begins with identity, with realizing that you are not the noise. You are the one who hears it. This shift changes your life. When you are no longer defined by your thoughts, you stop being at war with yourself. You stop judging yourself for every negative feeling. You stop chasing peace and begin living it, because you're no longer pulled in 1,000 directions by the stories in your head. You become still, you become rooted, you become free. So let this be a daily practice. Observe without judgment, question without panic, choose without fear. You will still have difficult thoughts, everyone does. But now you know they are not you, and that changes everything. This is lesson 3, the liberating reminder that you are not the chaos in your mind, but the calm center that sees it clearly and chooses its response. Lesson 2. External success means nothing without inner stability. The world celebrates achievement. It elevates wealth, status, beauty, recognition. We are taught almost from birth that if we just work hard enough, gain enough, impress enough, then we will finally feel secure, finally feel proud, finally feel like we are enough. But the Stoics knew better. They knew the truth that society avoids at all costs. External success is worthless without inner stability. This is lesson 2. You can have everything, the car, the title, the applause, the body, the house, and still be restless, still be anxious, still feel hollow when you're alone. Why? because none of those things touch your soul. They decorate the outside, but leave the inside untouched. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world. Yet he wrote each night as if he were reminding himself not to fall apart. He knew that power could not protect his mind. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That is not the voice of someone chasing more. It is the voice of someone searching for what's real. Success, as defined by the world, is shallow. It's loud, it's unstable, it can be given and taken away. But inner stability, that is built, not given. It is earned through discipline, reflection, humility, and virtue. And once you have it, no one can steal it. Epictetus lived in chains for part of his life, yet he considered himself freer than many emperors. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That is the heart of this lesson. External freedom is not enough. Success in the eyes of others is not enough. If you are not stable within, if you crumble under pressure, if your mood is tied to what happens around you, then you are not truly living. Think of how many so-called successful people live in quiet panic. They succeed, but they cannot sleep. They win, but they do not trust. They perform, but they feel empty when the lights go off. Why? Because the external does not heal the internal. It never has. It never will. Seneca warned, "We are always complaining that our days are few and acting as though there would be no end of them. We chase endlessly, we accumulate, we conquer, but rarely do we pause to ask, am I well inside? Am I grounded? Am I prepared for the day everything I built might disappear?" The Stoic answer is not to reject success, but to redefine it. True success is not having more. It is needing less. It is being undisturbed when plans fail. It is being calm when others panic. It is standing firm when the world shakes. And that kind of stability cannot be bought. It must be built. It is built in solitude, in reflection, in hard conversations with yourself, in choosing discipline over indulgence, in choosing virtue over vanity. And it shows not in your achievements, but in your presence, in your ability to listen, to respond rather than react, to remain still inside even when the outside is chaos. So let this be your reminder. It is fine to pursue goals, fine to dream, fine to build, but never forget. None of it matters if your inner world is in ruins. Your true home is not the house you live in, the career you pursue, or the followers you gain. Your true home is your mind. And if that home is noisy, cluttered, weak, then nothing on the outside can make up for it. This is lesson 2. The sober truth that real success is measured not in possessions, but in the peace and strength of your own soul. Lesson 1. You were born complete. You simply forgot. At the center of every human being lies something untouched, a core that existed before the praise, before the criticism, before the achievements and the mistakes. A place beneath all roles, all expectations, all stories. The Stoics called this your rational nature, your inner demon, your connection to the universe. And it is not lacking, it is not broken, it is not incomplete. This is lesson 1. You were born complete. You simply forgot. The world tries to convince you otherwise. From a young age, you're told that you must become something, that you must earn your value, that you must improve yourself, fix yourself, prove yourself. And so you begin chasing attention, acceptance, perfection. You try to become worthy, forgetting that you already are. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." This was not metaphor, it was instruction. If you dig beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the self-doubt, you will find something still and strong, something that was always there. You are not missing anything, you have simply been distracted from your essence. The Stoics never spoke of self-worth the way modern culture does. They didn't chase confidence through status or external validation. They taught that your dignity is inherent. It comes from your capacity to reason, to choose virtue, to live in alignment with nature. Epictetus, born into slavery, reminded his students that no one could strip them of this inner dignity unless they consented. He said, "You are a soul carrying a corpse," meaning what defines you is not the outer shell, but the inner clarity, the part of you that observes, chooses, and endures. You were born with that. You don't have to earn it. But here's what happens. Life clouds that truth. Trauma, criticism, failure, they create stories in your mind. You begin to believe you are less than, that you are broken, that you are behind. And so you turn outward, searching for what was never lost. The Stoic way is to stop searching and start remembering. You remember your worth not by achieving more, but by subtracting what never belonged to you in the first place. The need to impress, the pressure to be perfect, the fear of rejection. These are not parts of you. They are layers that have covered you. Remove them, sit in silence, walk alone, reflect deeply. Read the wisdom of those who came before. Train your mind, choose virtue, serve others, and little by little, the fog lifts. You begin to feel something familiar, not new, but ancient. A calm recognition. I am already enough. Not in an arrogant way, not in a performative way, in a quiet, steady, unshakable way. The way a tree is enough, the way the ocean is enough, the way the stars never ask for permission to shine. Seneca wrote, "A man is unhappy, though he reigns the world, if he does not consider himself happy." Self-worth is not granted from the outside. It is realized from within. And once it is realized, it becomes your anchor. In failure, you remain grounded. In success, you remain humble. In chaos, you remain clear. So stop chasing, stop fixing, stop pretending. You were not born to earn your value. You were born to express it, to live it, to protect it. You already are who you were meant to be. Now it's time to remember. This is lesson 1, the foundation beneath all Stoic practice. You are already complete, and nothing outside of you can change that unless you let it. You've now walked through 10 timeless lessons, not just ideas, but living principles, teachings that have endured centuries, teachings that guided emperors through chaos, former slaves through pain, and philosophers through exile. And now, they are yours. Maybe this video found you at a quiet moment, or maybe it found you in the middle of a storm. Either way, the message is the same. You are stronger than you think. Not because life has been easy, but because you're still here, listening, reflecting, choosing growth when numbing out would be easier. That alone sets you apart. The world will keep offering distractions. It will keep selling illusions that your value depends on how you look, how much you make, who approves of you, or how loud you perform. But you know better now. You've seen what the Stoics saw, that the highest form of power is self-mastery, and the deepest form of peace is to live in alignment with your own nature. You've learned that you don't need permission to love yourself. That reputation is nothing without character. That comparison is a thief of peace. That your emotions are not your enemy, but your responsibility. That no one owes you anything, and in that, you are free. That your value is not found in your output. That discipline is a declaration of self-respect. That thoughts are not facts. That success without stability is empty. And most of all, that you were never broken, only buried. Every lesson in this journey has pointed to one truth. Everything you need is already within you. The clarity, the strength, the calm, it's there. Not in some future version of yourself, not in the next milestone, not in the next relationship, but here, in this breath, in this moment, in this choice. Now the question is, will you live this way? Not perfectly, that's not the goal, but intentionally, courageously, with your attention on what you can control and your heart rooted in what matters most. That's the Stoic way. Not a philosophy to impress others, but a discipline to return to when the world shakes. Because the world will shake. People will leave, plans will fail, expectations will disappoint, but you will remain. You will breathe. You will stand, and you will remember what we remember here at Diary Stoic. That nothing is more powerful than a human being who refuses to abandon themselves, no matter what life brings. So wherever you are, whoever you are, if this message reached you, it's because something in you was ready to hear it. Now I ask you, don't let this be just another video. Let it be a beginning. Start journaling, reflect on one lesson per day, practice the pause, train your perception, question your thoughts, honor your discipline, and most of all, live like someone who remembers, I am enough, even in silence. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it. Let the wisdom spread, not just through words, but through action, through who you become. And if you want to walk this path deeper, stay connected here with us at Diary Stoic. This is not a place of noise. This is a place of clarity, of truth, of quiet strength, because in the end, life is short. The storms are real, the noise is loud, but the soul is quiet, and it is waiting for you to return.